Let's get into it. Welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Andy Hale. I've got a super special guest with me today. I've been looking forward to this. First met him as a client. Now I consider him one of my best friends. He's the best. Rick Wershe Jr. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. And ditto, Andy. I started out as a client, and not because we're on your podcast or whatever. Andy's truly a dear friend of mine, like family, and probably one of the most compassionate and greatest attorneys I know. So I appreciate you, man.
Well, I appreciate you. And, I had you on my other true crime podcast. This Connect podcast is a little more kind of my life lessons, spiritual journey. One of the big themes I talk about on this Connect podcast is the power of a personal connection. Now, what I mean by that is connecting with people, right? Making relationships, bonding with people. And I thought about you, especially. I was flying home from LA, visiting my son just last week. I watched the White Boy documentary again. And for people that don't know the backstory, I think most of you probably do. Rick grew up in the east side of Detroit. At 14 years old, was recruited by the FBI to be an informant. They kind of kicked him to the curb. At 17, he got arrested for a nonviolent drug offense and got life in prison without parole. Let me say that again. Life in prison without parole. How many years did you serve?
Just shy of 33 years.
That's insane. That is just absolutely insane. We're going to do a whole nother podcast episode about that. But what struck me in watching the documentary is here you were, this white kid growing up in an area, I think that sounded like it was primarily, black. You kind of getting in to know all these guys in the community at a young age. You had the power of a personal connection. How do you think you got that?
I've just always been really, like a extroverted person, been, a people person. I can approach people and talk to people very well, and it's just part of who I am. So that helps me now with my business and helping do things in the community, which I do, approaching other people. So it's definitely the power of having that, the what do you call it, Andy?
I call it making a personal connection,
The power of making personal connections
Yeah.
is very strong, and you can go a lot further in life if you have that, I believe.
I look at you. I just think anybody that knows you, you always can connect with people. That's the word I'll use. So, if you first meet somebody, it's not a superficial kind of thing. You connect. Even you and me, we could have easily, I was trying to help you when you were trying to, get out of prison and things, and that's all fine. I mean, I've represented, hundreds of people in my life, but I don't have the same bond with them that I do with you. And I think we're similar in that we connect with people. And I think you especially, I look at your trajectory growing up, connected with people in your neighborhood, growing up, connecting with people you knew, growing up, connecting with people in prison, connecting with people that could help you get out of prison, connecting with people once you got out of prison. Like, I feel like you are the master at it. And I think, what do you think is your secret sauce? Is this just the way you were?
I think it's just who I am. It's like I said, I'm a people person. I listen. I treat everybody with respect, unless you make me not. So uh, I, I just, it's how I live my life. I mean, I have friends that make $12 an hour, and I have friends that are billionaires. So I connect with people on all levels, and I treat everybody the same.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there, the way you said that. Having friends all across the spectrum, people that don't have a lot of money, people that do have a lot of money, black, white, Asian, whatever, you kind of have this rainbow network. And what I want to stress on this podcast to people, what I'm trying to kind of tell people, I tell my kids, I tell people I work with, make those connections. And by that, I don't mean like people are just transactional. What I mean is if you make a connection, you're going to have a friend, a relationship. It's going to enrich your life. But the other bonus is life is about personal connections, right? I mean, relationships, friends, marriages, jobs, and opportunities. It's your connections and the people that over your life you have connected with. So I'm really trying to encourage people on this podcast when they meet somebody, connect. Don't just have a superficial, like, it's an opportunity to have a deeper connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Listen, you can get so much more accomplished in life if you have those connections. You know what I mean? Like the people I meet, I do a lot for kids programs for charities, and you've helped me with some of those. And I'm very fortunate the circle that I have that, I'm able to do that. And you know, who you know in this world, you can go a lot of places just by the connections that you make.
no, that's so true. And I just, I really want people to understand that, uh, just get to meet people, get to meet people and connect with people. It's so important. How do you think, how would you describe, you got out of prison now and you were in there for over 3 decades. You went in as a 17-year-old, you came out as basically a 50-year-old. How did you make connections and start your life over once you got out?
It honestly, Andy, I mean, I think the documentary, the movie gave me a platform. A lot of people, knew what I went through, and some are very compassionate, some could care less, but it's all about, I think they see how I live my life, how positive I am. I don't like negativity, I don't like negative people. So for me, I don't look back. We can't change yesterday, but 5 minutes from now is all up to us.
I
So,
agree. I agree. You know what I wanted to ask you about watching that documentary again? I'm kind of fascinated by your dad. Your dad had all those patents. Um, it sounds like he was just like brilliant guy. Did he have your kind of personality, that people connection, or what was he like?
yeah, I think my dad was a people person. I would call him a people person. I mean, he was a business person. He had, he could talk to people very well, and it's just something that I picked up from him as a kid.
Because I think I got a lot of mine from my dad. Um, my dad was a connector, is what I say. I mean, like, he was an elementary school principal. The kids loved him. He connected with the kids. He'd connect with anybody working on our house. Like if we would hire a guy to like paint or whatever, it wasn't like just like he always, by the time they finished the job, they were like buddies, bringing him donuts every day, doing stuff like he just had the power of connecting with people. And I just can't stress enough how if you do that, you have such a more enriched life because the network around you. But your dad just struck me as somebody I was really interested in.
Yeah, he definitely had a big impact on my life in that aspect.
I want to pivot to another topic. This is something you and I talked about, uh, and you were giving examples of several people that got out of prison and are now making a lot of money, doing very well financially. And when I first heard that, I was kind of blown away. Like, gosh, you would think when you get out of prison, it'd be like you hear these stories, it's hard to even find a job. And the word you told me, and I've told this story probably 100 times, the word you used, the one word was hustle. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Listen, we're all given the same 24 hours in a day. So how we use those 24 hours is all up to us. And either you have that hustle and that grind in you, or you're just, you want to work your 8 hours for someone, you want to go home. And, I look at things like this, like it doesn't matter if you're a hustler in the underworld or the legitimate world, you're still a hustler. So you're always on to the next thing. I flew in here Friday, on a private jet with a friend of mine,
Where are
and
you at?
I'm in Miami.
Mhm.
So I flew in with him, and I pay attention. And even on the plane, he used his time wisely. We talked, but he was always looking for the next thing. And here's this guy that, God bless him, he's a dear friend of mine, and he has everything in the world. He built a company, he sold it to a Wall Street firm. He's got a G4, he's got a yacht, he's got this, and he's still grinding, he's still hustling. So, I look at people like that as an inspiration.
I look at it too, like I think these people, and when I say hustles, I mean hustle like Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose hustle. Like they're just relentless, right? And I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast a lot too. That there's opportunities all around us. They're right now in the air, all around you and me. And if you have to hustle, you can recognize the opportunities and seize them. And you don't get bogged down in where you're at right now. So think about all those guys that got out of prison. It'd be very easy to say, "Oh, I'm kind of doomed. It's going to be difficult." But then you gave me examples of guys starting car wash business, starting another kind of business. Like they had the creativity, the imagination, and the dream and the hustle to think they could be something, anything they want. And I think I'm trying to also empower people to take that attitude.
There's a lot of people, Andy, that get out of prison that, they say, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. You've already defeated yourself. Once you say you can't do something, you truly defeated yourself.
Well, I go back to you. How did you survive mentally and physically going into prison at 17, 18 years old, spending 33 plus years in there and getting out and being the kind of person you are, so strong and so just, on your way. How did you do that?
I just mentally, I always stayed, you know, I always told myself I would never give up, that I would get back on my feet, that I would do good things. And, there was a lot of naysayers that said, oh, he does this charity stuff from prison. And I think I started it 7 years prior to I was released. Now I'm happy to say I have my own 501c. I don't even think you knew that, but I started Wershe's Way.
No.
And,
Tell me
and
about it. What is it? What is it?
it's a 501c. I do a lot of work with kids, as you know, foster kids, Love for a Child. I've raised well over $100,000 for Love for a Child to send foster kids to summer camp. We've gotten a young man a handicap van who you contributed
Yeah,
to.
I
I
remember
believe
that.
in that. Uh, we buy these kids sneakers. We fed the whole Wayne County Youth Home through Happy's Pizza. Happy and his son helped me tremendously. While I was in prison, they donated food. Now that I'm out, they helped me feed the whole Wayne County Youth Home for Super Bowl Sunday. So it's just all about giving back. And Where She's Way was a way for me to kind of remember my dad and you know, keep our name going and do some good things. So it's a community based 501c where we're going to do things. We've done things as far as away as Bimini, Bahamas, giving kids clothes and shoes, and you know, and right here in our own neighborhood in Florida and in Michigan and in Detroit, I do far more. But I want to bring that to Florida as well.
How do I keep me posted about some of that stuff? How can people find that if they want to get involved? What's the
Uh, the best way to be would be my Instagram. When we do things, I'm going to start posting on there. Uh, so it's just Rick Wershe _Jr. And you follow me on Instagram and you'll be able to see the things that we do, whether it's in a post or in my story. And, a lot of good things coming down the pipeline.
tell me a little bit about the area you grew up in, what it was like when you were there, what it's like now, and what you've been trying to do to help out the old place you grew up.
I grew up on the east side of Detroit. Now I do ride through there and take a look, and it's sad how beat up and run down. You have blocks with maybe one house on the whole block. So, Andy, honest to God, what I try and do is I try and do for these kids what I wish, someone did for me when I was their age. One young man, I work with Team Wellness, you know that. We have a boxing program, a juvenile after school program that's doing tremendous. And, I took to this kid in there, Bryce, and the other day I went up there and I saw him and I brought him all some clothes. And, we take donated clothes up there to give away. And I took all this stuff up there and I bought Bryce a new pair of sneakers, which I did for 3 juvenile programs at the holiday. We bought them all brand new sneakers. So Bryce is kind of special to me. I see a lot of myself in him, and I just want to give him some guidance and help.
That's another thing you kind of brought up the third area I wanted to get into, and we've talked about this, saying, people don't want a handout, they want a hand up. You've told me that phrase. Did I say it right?
Absolutely.
Tell me what you meant by that and explain it.
I don't think, there might be a few people that are just looking for handouts, but the vast majority of people, they don't want a handout. They're not bums. They don't, they might have gotten to a point in their life where, they're going through something, but they don't want a handout. They just want a hand up, give them a helping hand and let them get back on their feet.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just need the opportunity, and I think a lot of people, um, I think it'd be helpful if people actually knew more individuals who were in need, who grew up poor, who grew up in poverty, who grew up without parents. Um, if you don't have that in your world, and you're not a bad person, but you just aren't exposed to it, and you don't really see just what a little thing can do, right? A little hand up, a little help, buying somebody the gym shoes, tutoring somebody, those little things that can all give somebody the opportunity. I just think it's amazing that you're doing all that work for kids, and I want to try to empower people to get more involved in projects like that.
I want to see this kid succeed. And I mean, it's one young man, but I see something in him. He's a tremendous athlete. He's in our boxing program. He's a football player. So he loves the U of M. I happen to know a kid that's, Gio Haddad, who's the center for Michigan right now. And I called Gio and put him on FaceTime, and he was good enough to talk to this young man. And I want to see Bryce someday on the field at U of M. I want to see Bryce play on Sundays.
That's amazing. Amazing stories. We're going to have a few more episodes, maybe have you on here with some of the people you're trying to help. I'd love to have an episode where you have some of these other people on here. What do you also think about in life? I think people sometimes get the wrong mindset where they don't really feel like they have opportunities. And what I try to tell people is this is a phrase I always use to my kids, people I work with. I mean, Hannah and Hayden probably heard this 1,000 times. Everything in life is an opportunity. And I'm a big believer in whatever comes your way, there's opportunities everywhere, whatever that might be. If you get fired from a job or laid off, it's an opportunity for a new career. If you move neighborhoods or move schools or you meet a new person, I just feel like people don't always recognize the opportunities around them.
I just told someone the other day he was fired, and I said, "Hey, use that as an opportunity to find a better job."
Yeah. I'm a big believer in kind of the universe guides you. And somebody gets laid off and gets fired. I almost look at it like, what's the universe trying to tell me right now? There's something out there for me that's better, is how I look at it. There's
Yeah.
something out there better. And my dad, I got that. My dad was such a positive person, and he had that kind of mindset. He didn't worry. I try to tell people, like, if you can't control it, there's no sense worrying about it. So he didn't worry about things that were out of his control. He was looking out the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I mean, just looking forward to life, enjoying each day and kind of seizing the day. And what can people do to kind of get that attitude back?
I mean, I think it's all, every day that we wake up, you have to be grateful. So it's all a mental state. And, like I said, some people go through hard times. They didn't ask for those times. But if you just tell yourself, hey, I'm going to get through this and, I'm going to make better things happen and, just stay positive, stay away from negativity. Don't beat yourself up. Don't get down on yourself. You're behind on your bills. Next year, you'll be ahead on your bills. That's the way you have to think.
The one thing about the negativity I agree on so much, I do not. It's kind of like my analogy is like pruning a tree, right? Like I cut off the dead branches. If there's people that are negative, dragging me down, don't get what I'm doing, don't get me, life's too short. I don't have time for that. I need to be around positive people, people lifting me up, people that, have the same mindset. And I think a lot of people, that's another kind of powerful lesson I'm trying to teach. Don't let people like, it's almost like, when you see in football games, somebody's grabbing your jersey, man. Get rid of those people. They're holding you back.
Yeah.
I don't care if you've known them for a while or whatever. Do your thing. Focus on you.
Yeah. My best advice, like to anybody, is if you have someone in your circle that's negative or holding you back, get them out of your circle.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we wrap up here, and we're gonna do another one where I think we talk about some other topics. What other little kind of like life lesson would you give to somebody out there who might feel a little down, might feel a little bit of a struggle, they're not where they're at right now, but they might be listening to this. I mean, what words would you say to somebody like that?
Tomorrow's always a better day. Every day up here is a good day, and tomorrow will be better.
Yeah.
Go to sleep, wake up, and start over. And like I said, we all get the same 24 hours. Go out there and do something with those 24 hours.
I also think what you said about gratitude is important. I think gratitude is one of the most powerful things. Being thankful for what you have. My dad, I'd be with him. We'd go into a store and someone would say, "How are you doing?" My dad would say, "I woke up today." That was like his favorite line. I woke up today.
Hey,
And grateful that I woke up, grateful that I'm walking, grateful that the basics. And if you can start with gratitude, start with the little things that you have and build from that. I think gratitude is a really powerful feeling.
it is 100%. Listen, I'm much like your dad. I wake up every day and I kiss this, and I had this a long time in prison, and I believe in God, and I kiss it and say thanks for another day.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we wrap up here, tell me a little bit about what you're doing now and, how people can check you out or follow you if they want to get updates
Uh,
on what you're up to.
like I said, it's my Instagram is Rick Wershe underscore Jr. What's going on is, I have my cannabis line, the Eighth by White Boy Rick. We're in Michigan. We're in California, where we give $2 off of every vape to foster care. We're just trying to do some good things, use it as a teaching tool. The eighth is your Eighth Amendment, the ban on cruel and unusual punishment, excessive bail, excessive fines. Working on the new documentary that you know about, that
Yeah.
I'm excited that I finally get to be in control of something, kind of set the record straight about a bunch of the bullshit that's out there. Just life in general, man. I've gotten involved in this boat racing thing, and we set the world record in Lake of the Ozarks with the White Boy Rick boat, 136 miles an hour on
Wow.
a catamaran with outboards. And the good thing that for me, Andy, every day, you never know what tomorrow brings. So I just
Yeah.
look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah. And you've got, even though I think a lot of people know your story, there was a documentary, White Boy, there was the theatrical movie White Boy Rick, Matthew McConaughey played your dad in that one. I still think, and you and I are going to talk about this again, maybe the next podcast episode. I still think there is a much, much bigger platform for you. You were brought down on this earth, I believe, to inspire and motivate people on a mass scale. And I think there's a platform coming for you that you haven't even tapped into yet. Even though a lot of your story is out there, I see a much, much bigger audience for you because I think you have a very motivating and inspiring story to tell, uplifting people, helping people. I think Wershe's Way, did I say that right? Is that what it's called? Is going to
Correct.
grow, continue to grow. I want to support it in you. And I'm looking forward to following you and your journey and having you back on this podcast soon. All right.
Thank you, and I look forward to it. Thanks everybody that listens to it.
All right. We'll stay in touch. Thanks for
Oh,
listening to this episode of Connect, everybody. Was there something else you wanted to say?
no, just thank you for having me, Andy. I appreciate you.
We're going to do it again real soon. I got a lot more I want to talk about. So, everybody, stay tuned.